Shiloh Burgess joins us on In Focus today here on NCW Life. Of course, with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, Executive Director for how many years now?
Almost 7.
7 years now?
Yeah. February 13th will be my 7th birthday.
A lot of water under the dams. Huh?
Well, I've had quite a few experiences. It's hard to believe it's been 7 years.
Well, here we are, 2020, heading into the new year.
New decade.
Let's talk about some chamber issues going into this new year and what's on your work plate going forward.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the new decade. The very first thing that is always our focus this time of year is closing out the last year and celebrating. So we'll have our annual membership banquet on March 5th, it's coming up. We've announced our Nonprofit of the Year nominees and our Business of the Year nominees, and we will select one of those and announce who they are that night. But it's interesting, this year our theme for the banquet is Take It In, which was the theme of 2019, knowing that we were closing out a decade, but we were just having a conversation with a member who was coming back to the chamber, who had been active, even had been president of the organization back in the day. And we were looking and going, wow, the history of this organization not too long ago was a much different reality than it is today. It was very challenged. The organization potentially was going to fold. And so to stand today where we are, it's because of all the great work this community has done to give us this chance. And so it's not lost on us. So we're going to take it in. We're going to take a look of what has happened in the last decade for the chamber and what we're looking forward to in the next decade of the chamber.
What have you seen in terms of membership?
It's growth, which has been exciting. We've actually tried to cool our heels a little bit with growth. When I started, we had a low for the organization. We were about 505 members my first year, and then we now today are at almost 675 members. And
wow.
We have not crest below 650 since my second year with the organization. We've stayed that way, though, because it's really hard to provide good service to all of those members. And so we believe we have the capacity to be eventually a 1,200 member chamber. It's kind of where we think we should be here in the next probably 10 years, if you will. Mm-hmm. But we want to build relationships. So we have a new membership model that basically you start as a member, but as you go through the stages of that membership your first year, we hope you leave as a partner with our organization. And because in a partnership, what you know is that you have value that you're bringing to the organization, and the organization has value that we're bringing to your business, and together, hopefully, we're adding value to our greater community, the greater business community, and the region as a whole. So we're really trying to change the culture and how we do business, and our businesses have responded to that really well.
Well, you know, I have kind of relative to your history years, but rather short, moved up here in the early 90s. But in my short time here, I've seen a lot of changes occur, a lot of growth, especially with the Hispanic community.
Yes.
And I know that Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce is working very closely with that community as well.
Yeah, so our 10-year target is to be an essential partner for all businesses in our valley. And when you say all businesses, that means all businesses. Mm-hmm. And we have strategically been looking at the organization and the deficits that we have in terms of ability to serve our Hispanic or Latino business owners or professionals. So we've made some shifts to our staffing, to our ability to communicate, making publications now available in both Spanish and English. And then we got the nod, and I say it's a nod because we've talked for 5 years with the North Central Washington Hispanic Chamber about what's the future look like for our organizations, and should we team up? What should that teaming up look like? Should we become one? And we've really had to go through a process to get everybody comfortable for this next step that we're taking, and that is as of December 31st, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce went away.
Dissolved, yeah.
They dissolved, and they passed the torch, actually, and said, okay, it's time to have the Hispanic Business Council associated with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce. And we're here to help you do that. And so many of those leaders are not leaving us, but they're going to help us develop that council in a way that fully integrates what our whole business community needs into our platform, whether that's our leadership development platforms, whether that's our advocacy platforms, our workforce development platforms, or community relations platforms, all of that. We want to be able to speak as a whole business community.
You all have one goal.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
We come at that goal from different sophistications at times, or different connections or resources or even understandings, but we all want to have a more prosperous and vibrant business climate, and we want to all continue to enhance our quality of life.
Let's ask you right now for an assessment of our business climate right now in the Wenatchee Valley. Are we healthy?
I'm more nervous this year than I've ever been, honestly, and
Really?
it's because of the minimum wage increase. It's because of local governments that are feeling the demands of services and requirements, whether that's environmental or other regulatory, and trying to figure out how do we pay for it all. And really, I think what we're learning as a local area and as a state, we have haves and have-nots. Right? And we have a booming metropolitan area in this state, and we have some really struggling rural areas in this state. And in between is places like Wenatchee. And so we're really nervous about what the increase in minimum wage is doing. It's closing businesses. It's making people change their growth plans. And so we're concerned. We're concerned about what that means for our younger workforce. And so I am optimistic, but I'm cautious, right? We're still strong. The economy is still strong, but I'm cautious because we've seen this implemented in the Seattle metro area that has a much more diverse income drawing base and opportunities to absorb it, and it's not the same here.
It really affects the service sector.
It really affects, but it affects
especially
everything when you think about it, right? It affects how much my groceries are going to cost, how much, it's going to cost for me to be able to hire that web designer. I mean, everything goes up.
But in terms of what our strengths are here in the Wenatchee Valley,
You look at ag.
tourism,
Yeah.
outdoor recreation, the service sector that feeds that
Even
industry.
agriculture.
Even agriculture.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
the minimum wage does have an impact.
Absolutely. So we have great businesses. We have great business leaders. We are solution-oriented people, and I have not met a more dynamic. You think of entrepreneurs, I just think they're problem solvers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they will find a way to continue to pursue their passion, and for that, they're my heroes. But we'll feel that, right? I think we're going to see a little bit of slowing in certain areas in terms of growth.
How do you view this Our Valley, Our Future process and its influence on what's happening here?
So the Chamber was a founding member of what was Our Valley What's Next, and went through that America's Best Communities contest and has seen it evolve into Our Valley, Our Future. And we're big believers. We're bought in. We love, and I personally love, the way that it cultivates input from the grassroots up, if you will. It's a more inviting way to capture the voices of this community. Rufus Woods said it, and I just keep playing it over and over, nothing to us without us. And when we're talking about impacting a segment of our community or a demographic of our community, to be really conscientious about seeking first to understand before trying to be understood, right? Before going and say, we're going to do this. It's like, well, do you want us to do that? What does this mean to you? And what I think I valued the most is a lot of those things that came up in that survey work and that action plan had been talked about in various corners of the community, but it gave us the courage to go, this is actually the future we want, and a methodology or a path to go obtain that. And for us, we were just doing our surveys. So if, as a lead partner, you get surveys and you kind of look and say, oh, well, what have we invested and what have we accomplished? And we've accomplished quite a bit. We have 17 action items, and we're ready to kind of feed back into that process because we're going to be updating that plan and going, so these are kind of not very clear. What does the community mean by wanting to enhance this culinary experience? Or what does it mean when they want to do this? Because if we're responsible for it, how do we know we're ringing the bell? So getting to go back and have a continued conversation with the community, it's been exciting. And it's something that the state has looked at. I mean, the Chamber was effective in our first advocacy work or effort with our lobbyists. We received a $140,000 grant from the state to continue that work, which was exciting. And the state has looked at that model and went, how do we do this in other communities? And we said, hey, we'll talk to anybody because it's made a transformative difference for us. So we're big. We're big into it. We believe in it, and we hope it continues to receive the same kind of community support that it's had in the past.
I know we're seeing increased cooperation and collaboration, I should say, between the two counties.
Yes.
And a lot of the organizations, including the recent merging, if you will, of the two port districts into a regional port authority.
Yeah.
That appears to be going quite smoothly.
Yeah, I love this concept of functional consolidation, right? They're two legal entities still, but just the tone set, right? Kudos to them for engaging the community, listening to the stakeholder groups that they convened, and doing hard things. I don't know when Jim Kuntz took the job if he thought he would lose his job and be hired for a different job within his first year, but he's done a really great job. The team for both of those organizations have come together, and I think that word is really important, the difference between cooperation and collaboration, right? Like I can cooperate with you and okay, but collaborating is I jointly own what we're trying to accomplish,
right.
and I'm going to bring everything I have to that solution, and we're going to do this together. And being able to understand that the challenges we face in this region, whether it's homelessness, whether it's our regional airport or other transportation needs, growing our economy, is not up to one government entity or one business sector. It really is going to take all of us, and we are interdependent.
A lot of new growth in the valley, but are we addressing the housing issue, especially from an affordability aspect?
Yeah, I think we're doing our best to try to address that, but the problem is growing at a pace that I don't know at what point does it turn itself back around, right? So a lot of great things were initially brought to light through the Housing Solutions Group as part of our Valley Our Future. The Chamber has worked now 4 years on a piece of legislation that Representative Steele has. We had a legislative housing tour last October to really help the legislators understand the basic median home price versus our annual median income and why they're going like this, and what we need to try to bring those back together, and what we can do in the short term to try to keep homes entering the market at a more affordable price. What we learned, which is actually kind of fortunate, which sounds crazy to say it this way, about our housing problem, is we don't have housing stock that our workforce can obtain, versus not having housing stock that our most challenged or less fortunate, low-income, homeless folks have, right? Like our project or our problem is really sourced in the middle, and so being able to produce a stock that someone can purchase or rent, like we have resources, we just don't have the stock available at the price point that the people with resources can't afford, and so they're down renting. And so we have seen with new apartments coming online, we have seen some of that relief, and so we're seeing some vacancy rate, which is starting to slowly push some market rents back down, which is good. So we're getting there. Yes, it's the inventory in the market. But it's also a changing culture, how people want to live these days. More people want to rent than they necessarily want to buy, which is
the
interesting.
Millennial thing, I think, isn't it?
It is, and it's interesting then because you look at it too and you go, my grandmother's generation and grandfather's generation, even my parents, you bought a house because that was a way to build equity.
Exactly.
There's a way to build wealth within your family, and then you bought land, and a lot of it was related to farming. That's an agricultural based society or mentality. And so how then is this next generation going to continue to build their wealth, right, and their sustainability? And I don't know if they don't see the same need because of the jobs that they have that's different, right? Or
it is
or
having an
inheriting.
impact, as I understand, on the ag industry, especially with younger generations opting not to continue on that tradition.
Yeah, it's a change, but we're working it. We have a lot of great people doing what they can in the area that they are best equipped to do, and we understand it isn't one magic fix, right? It's something across the whole system is going to have to change a little bit. Part of that's how builders approach building and what they build. Part of that is what we incentivize to come in and have more multifamily housing units, and some of that is really understanding we have to reestablish the first-time homebuyer market in our community.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? That's something that we need. So.
Well, let me ask you, Shiloh Burgess again, Executive Director with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, joining us today on In Focus. Dancing with the Stars.
Yes.
How'd it go?
Well, I had 3 major goals for that experience. The first was I wanted to finish in the top 6. There's only 6 competitors. I wanted to do something that resembled a dance. I happened to do the cha-cha. And I didn't want to have a wardrobe malfunction. And so I managed to do all of those things. And it is It taught me that my 8-year-old self had really good instinct, and that was I didn't miss my life's calling by not becoming a ballerina.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
but
Wow.
it was a great group of people to get to do that with. Dallas, who was my instructor, 24 years old. Amazing young man that I hope he achieves his dream. He wants to end up either off Broadway, but really he wants to be on Broadway doing a production. And I committed to him. I said, you do that, I'm coming to New York. I have no desire to go to New York, but if you're in a Broadway show, Dallas, I'm coming to see you.
Fantastic. Well, it's a great experience anyway.
It is one that I am proud I have done, and I hope I do not have to do again anytime soon. I do not have 2 right feet or 2 left feet. I've got a little less rhythm than I probably should, so I'll leave that to the professionals. But
I can't say my fondest memories, but as a kid having to be forced to go to cotillion, I feel for you.
thank you.
Shiloh, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to share with us before we let you go?
No, well, thank you to NCW Life and you for having us on. We hope to be back again.
You betcha. Shiloh Burgess, rather. I knew I was going to do that.
That's okay.
Shiloh Burgess with the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce joining us on NCW Live. Thanks.
Thank you.